talked to him about all that. That's later on by himself. We talked to him. You don't want to make it too. It's a little bit heavy in the beginning. Start, bring in front of everybody and.
That's not going to make it too heavy. I will make speech.
I wish you guys tell me this stuff. I won't prepare my tafsir. I said I was preparing this stuff. Okay, I talked to him. She's all right. Not a little bit. Okay. I'll talk to him after the tafsir.
Assalamu alaikum. Before we start the tafsir, I request the brothers who are networking by Shu area to please either come inside the masjid or internet outside. Jazakallah khair.
Ayat 32, huh? Ayat 32. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قالوا يا نوح قد جادلتنا فأكثرت جدالنا فأتنا بما تعدنا إن كنت من الصادقين. My dear respected elders and brothers, last week we were speaking about Nuh alayhi salam, who was the first prophet amongst all the prophets to give da'wah and to deal with the kufr of his nation, the non-belief of his nation. Before that, Adam alayhi salam and Idris alayhi salam did not have to deal with kufr or disbelief, but slowly but surely insan turned away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they started disbelieving. Nuh alayhi salam, in his nation, he had to deal with this. And last week we mentioned about the da'wat of Nuh alayhi salam, his propagation to his people, and a couple of the complaints that they had. Basically, there was about 3 complaints that they had about Nuh alayhi salam. The first complaint was that you are not anything special, you're a human being just like us. The second complaint was that the people who are following you, they are the very disgraceful people of the community, the poor people, and it seems to be that they accepted your mission very quickly. They didn't think about it too much. And the third thing is that they said that Nuh, you don't have any type of status over us. You're not our leader. You're not, high in your family lineage, whatever. So therefore, these 3 complaints they had made, and in one last one, they said that we believe that you're a liar. You're lying about this. You're not sincere in your mission to bring us towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In reply, Nuh alayhi salam, first of all, answered them that in regards to him being higher than them. So Nuh alayhi salam answered in this way, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed me with nabuwat, meaning I'm a prophet of Allah ta'ala. This blessing has come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but unfortunately this fadl and this great status Allah has given me, ummiyat alaykum, you've been blinded from it. So that's not my fault, that's your fault, that you cannot understand the status of nabuwat and understand how great a prophet I am. The second thing, in regards to kadhibeen, when he said that you were a liar, so Nuh alayhi salam said, La as'alukum alayhi mala. One of the signs that I would have been a liar, or it would have been a trick, or I was insincere in this mission of prophethood, is that I would have been asking you for money. I would have said, come to my religion. Then after that, I would have said, okay, there's a $500 entry fee, and this, that, and that, this, and give me money, as the people do today. So they were not asking you for any money. So therefore, how could you say I'm kadhib, I'm lying in it? There's no signs of lying. Why would I be doing this for? And then Nuh alayhi salam he then talked about the fact that they were telling him to get rid and repel and get rid of all of those believers that are with him who are poor and from those people who suffer poverty. So then he said, وَمَا أَنَا بِطَارِدِ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. I cannot now, drive away those people who have believed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I cannot see inside their hearts. إِنَّهُمْ مُلَاقُوا رَبِّهِمْ. But actually this is jahalat. You people are ignorant. That's why you are saying this. There's nothing wrong with those people, but it is from your ignorance. And the last thing, which they had said that Nuh alayhi salam, they had said that he is a human being. So Nuh alayhi salam, about this, he did not now reject this. The other things he rejected. But in regards to them saying he was a human, he now admitted to that fact. Because he was a human being. If he would have said, no, I'm not a human, then that would have been wrong. He is a human being. So he didn't reject that, but actually he made iqrar and he had told them that you are right. By saying, وَلَا أَقُولُ لَكُمْ عِنْدِي خَزَائِنُ اللَّهِ وَلَا عَالَمُ الْغَيْبِ وَلَا أَقُولُ إِنِّي مَلَكٌ. I don't know everything. I don't have the khaza'inul ghaib, the treasures of the unseen, that now I can bring miracles to you and bring gold to you and things like this, make it rain. I don't have these type of powers. وَلَا أَقُولُ إِنِّي مَلَكٌ. And I don't say that I'm an angel. I'm not an angel, I'm a human being. And also then he emphasized again about looking down at the other people. So in this way, Nuh alayhi salam, he answered these people in such a way where they became la jawab. There was no reply for them. They could not reply to him. The only way they could reply was that now they had said, sure ignorance, boldness then. Usually in the Quran, when the non-Muslims had rejected the da'wah of the Anbiya, they rejected the propagation of the Anbiya, they resorted to two ways. Either they became bold, like a child. If you tell him don't do that, so he tells you, what are you going to do then? Boldness. He doesn't want to stop. So they didn't want to stop their kufr and their disbelief, so they became bold with the prophets and they said, whatever it is you're promising, that punishment from Allah, bring it on, no problem. Or they threatened them. They would threaten the Anbiya and their believers, and they would say that if you don't stop, we'll stone you, we'll beat you, we'll kill you, we'll take you out of the nation, throw you out, whatever it may be. So these were the two ways, these are two things they resorted to. So today, the ayat that we read shows how they responded to this reply of Nuh alayhi salam. They said, قَالُوا يَا نُوحُ. They said, O Nuh, قَدْ جَادَلْتَنَا فَأَكْثَرْتَ جِدَالَنَا. You have argued with us. فَأَكْثَرْتَ جِدَالَنَا. And our arguments have been too much. 950 years, we know that. That Nuh alayhi salam was alive for 950 years amongst his people, trying to tell them to worship one Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Mufassirin say out of those 950 years, he had only about 80 believers with him. So they said that, listen, you fought with us too much. فَأَكْثَرْتَ جِدَالَنَا. Our fighting has become too much, therefore فَأْتِنَا بِمَا تَعِدُنَا. Bring what you have promised us. You're promising us some type of punishment if we don't believe? Bring it on. The boldness. إِن كُنْتَ مِنَ الصَّادِقِينَ. And if you are from those people who are telling the truth. If you're truthful and you're saying that your Allah can punish us, then bring that punishment. In other ayats, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that Nuh alayhi salam says that إِنِّي مَظْلُومٌ فَانْتَصِرْ. Showing that the people of Nuh alayhi salam actually tried to kill him as well. Inni madlumun. I've been oppressed. Fantasir, oh Allah, help me, assist me, because now my qawm, my people are not only rejecting me, but they're taking that next extra step where they're now planning and plotting to murder me. So the plot was there to murder Nuh alayhi salam as well. So his qawm, they now resorted to both things, rejection and boldness, by asking to bring the punishment of Allah Ta'ala. And from other ayats we realize also that they did try to kill Nuh alayhi salam as well. After this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions Nuh alayhi salam's reply. قَالَ إِنَّمَا يَأْتِيكُمْ بِهِ اللَّهُ إِن شَاءَ وَمَا أَنْتُمْ بِمُعْجِزِينَ. Nuh alayhi salam replied, إِنَّمَا يَأْتِيكُمْ بِهِ اللَّهُ. Verily Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring it. Only He can bring this punishment. I cannot bring it. Because you said, فَأْتِنَا, you bring it. So that's why he gave the reply, إِنَّمَا يَأْتِيكُمْ بِهِ اللَّهِ. Again, I'm not saying that I'm an angel. I don't have the khaza'in, the treasures of the unseen. I don't have this power that I can punish you. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who's my Lord, He's the one who will bring the punishment to you. Insha'a, if He wants also. This showing here the weakness of the Anbiya in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That every single person, even if it's a Nabi, is weak in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Muhtajun indallah. We are all in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That here he could have said, okay, I'm going to make dua and Allah is going to bring the punishment. He didn't even go there. If the punishment is going to come, only my Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring it, inshallah, and if He wants also. If He doesn't want to, it will never come upon you. And when it does come, وَمَا أَنْتُمْ بِمُعْجِزِينَ, you will not be able to escape. Even though the land is so vast, and the mountains have deep caves, and the oceans are deep, and you have houses as well, and if you build underground and you try to go in there, مَا أَنْتُمْ بِمُعْجِزِينَ, you cannot escape Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah ta'ala will seize you and He will grab you with His punishment if you don't accept. After this, Nuh alayhi salam, realizing that his people, khatmul qulub has taken place, that their hearts have now been stamped and have been closed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no way they're going to believe such boldness in front of the Nabi of Allah ta'ala. So then Nuh alayhi salam after this says, وَلَا يَنفَعُكُمْ نُصْحِي إِنْ أَرَدْتُ أَنْ أَنْصَحَ لَكُمْ إِنْ كَانَ اللَّهُ يُرِيدُ أَنْ يُغْوِيَكُمْ هُوَ رَبُّكُمْ وَإِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then says that Nuh alayhi salam said, وَلَا يَنفَعُكُمْ نُصْحِي, my advice will never benefit you. In aradtu an ansaha lakum, although or even though I want to advise you, even though my efforts are 950 years long now that I'm advising you, but the advice has not reached you and it's not benefiting you. In kana Allahu yuridu ayyaghwiyakum, if Allah Ta'ala wants to misguide you, so misguidance will take place. There's nothing I can do. I can give nasihat till the cows come home. Nothing's going to happen. You will not benefit because Allah Ta'ala Himself has closed your heart and He wants you now to become a disbeliever or to remain disbelievers. Huwa Rabbukum, He's your Lord. What can I say about that? Allah Ta'ala is the one who is the Malik and the owner of all the hearts. As it comes in a hadith that the hearts of insan fi usbu'ir rahman, they're in the fingers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning Allah Ta'ala controls the heart of insan. If He wants them to believe, as mashallah the brother today, he believed in Islam, then Allah Ta'ala guides that heart to Islam. But if Allah Ta'ala does not want that person to be guided, so all of us together and the greatest scholars of Islam can go in front of that person and explain with the greatest language and with the most clearest of proofs, but that person still won't believe. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not want him to become a believer. Huwa Rabbukum wa ilayhi turja'un, and to Him you will return. That even though you have chosen not to believe, and your choosing of not believing now has caused Allah Ta'ala to close your heart, that does not mean that you will not be responsible. وَإِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ, you still will be returned back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you will have to give an answer to Allah Ta'ala for what you did. After this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes into another ayat where some ulama say of tafseer that in this ayat this is going back to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and some ulama have mentioned that no, this is the people of Nuh alayhi salam who said this. We'll read the ayat and explain. أَمْ يَقُولُونَ افْتَرَاهُ قُلْ إِنِ افْتَرَيْتُهُ فَعَلَيَّ إِجْرَامِي وَأَنَا بَرِيءٌ مِّمَّا تُجْرِمُونَ. Allah Ta'ala says that are they saying that you have fabricated this? قُلْ إِنِ افْتَرَيْتُهُ, if I have fabricated this, فَعَلَيَّ إِجْرَامِي, so then upon me will be my own sin. If I fabricated it, then what are you worrying about? Allah Ta'ala will punish me. وَأَنَا بَرِيءٌ مِّمَّا تُجْرِمُونَ. But at the same time, I am free from those sins that you are doing. If this is my sin that I'm fabricating this, fardan, hypothetically speaking, so there's nothing for you to worry about because Allah will ask me about that. But those sins that you are involved in, shirk and zina and all those deep evil sins that you are involved in, ana bari'un, I'm free from that. I'm not involved in that. If hypothetically I'm involved in anything, then it is iftara, then it's fabricating a lie against Allah, which I am not anyway. But the things that you are doing, the fabrication against Allah that you are doing, and the sins that you are involved in, I'm not involved in that. I'm saying that I'm free from that. If we say this is an ayat which is talking about Rasulullah, so then it's an ayat in between, because Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, this great qissa and story of Nuh alayhi salam is being revealed here. So even though these great qissas and these stories of the prophets in such detail, as Allah Ta'ala will mention at the end of it, that تِلْكَ مِنْ أَنْبَاءِ الْغَيْبِ نُوحِيهَا إِلَيْكَ مَا كُنْتَ تَعْلَمُ أَنْتَ وَلَا قَوْمُكَ. These are such stories that Allah Ta'ala revealed in the Quran that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam nor his people knew about these stories. They had heard about Nuh alayhi salam, but details they never knew about. And it was so detailed that those things that were missing, the holes that were in the stories amongst the Jews and the Christians about Nuh alayhi salam, Allah Ta'ala was just filling in those holes. Where the Jews and the Christians were also looking and saying that, wow, that's what really happened. We were always in confusion about that, but Allah Ta'ala has now clarified it. So it could be such that this ayat is going back, yakuluna, that yakuluna means the Ahlul Mecca. The people of Mecca, they are saying that, O Rasulullah, you have fabricated this Quran. By mentioning this story of Nuh alayhi salam, still, even though it's in such detail and such connection with the Bible and the Torah, and it's so precise in its information, but still they're saying that you fabricated it. So tell them, Nabi Sallallahu, that if I fabricated it, then it's my own sin. But the sins that you were doing, I'm free from that. I'm not doing anything that you're doing. Or it could be that, yakulun aftara, that the people of Nuh alayhi salam were saying that he was fabricating. But the who would be going back to the propagation of Nuh alayhi salam. What Nuh alayhi salam was talking about, maybe the wa'd, the warning that Nuh alayhi salam was talking about, or maybe just his aqwal, what he's talking about Allah Ta'ala, they're saying that you're fabricating this. Because it's mashhur, and the Jamhur of ulama mentioned that there was no kitab revealed on Nuh alayhi salam. So we can't say that Nuh alayhi salam was fabricating some book. So it could be that that they thought that he was fabricating his da'wah, what he was saying about Allah Ta'ala, or maybe the wa'ad, the warning that he gave them, that they were going to be destroyed by Allah Ta'ala. This is what they're saying, you're fabricating this. There's no such thing as any warning, nothing's going to happen. So Nuh alayhi salam then replied and said that if I have made up this warning, so the sin of making up that warning will be upon me, and that shirk and all that idolatry and disbelief that you are doing, I'm free from that. I've got nothing to do with that. After this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions through wahi, through the revelation, that He is now 100% for sure put the muhr and put the stamp, and now has closed the hearts of these people. Because what's mashhur and very popular amongst the people, we think sometimes that Nuh alayhi salam, getting fed up with his people, he made dua against them. لا تذر على الأرض من الكافرين ديارا. Comes in Surah Nuh. When Nuh alayhi salam told Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, oh Allah, don't leave even one house from these disbelievers here, destroy all of them. Destroy all of them. فَانْتَصِرْ, help me, destroy them. So many of us believe sometimes, from looking at these ayat, that Nuh alayhi salam got so fed up with his people that he now made a dua of destruction upon them. Which most ulama mention is wrong. It's wrong. We shouldn't think this about Nuh alayhi salam. It was the fact that Nuh alayhi salam had already been told this by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that listen, there is not one person amongst your people who will become a believer after the last person who believed. Nobody else will become mu'min. After that, Nuh alayhi salam, understanding this and seeing that, listen, this effort is going to be baseless, because all these people are disbelievers and will remain disbelievers. Nobody's going to accept. So why would I want these people to live here? All they're doing is destruction and evil. They're causing problems for me. So therefore, Ya Allah, if they don't have a chance to get iman, then destroy them then. So this is why Nuh alayhi salam made the dua. Here Allah Ta'ala mentions where He now revealed this to Nuh alayhi salam. وَأُوحِيَ إِلَى نُوحٍ أَنَّهُ لَن يُؤْمِنَ مِن قَوْمِكَ إِلَّا مَن قَدْ آمَنَ فَلَا تَبْتَئِسْ بِمَا كَانُوا يَفْعَلُونَ. And it was revealed to Nuh alayhi salam that أَنَّهُ لَن يُؤْمِنَ مِن قَوْمِكَ, that nobody from your nation will ever become a mu'min, a believer, ever again. Nobody else. Those 80 people who believe, those are there. After that, 81 will never come. None of them will believe. إِلَّا مَنْ قَدَ آمَنَ, except for those people who have believed already. Those are the only ones. فَلَا تَبْتَئِسْ, so do not become sad. Don't become distressed. Don't become depressed. بِمَا كَانُوا يَفْعَلُونَ, because of the actions that they are doing. Since now you know that these people are going to remain as believers. And Nuh alayhi salam, one of the reasons why he's been named is Nuh. Nuh. It actually was his laqab. This was his nickname, Nuh. And Nuh comes from the word niyah. Niyah means to cry. Nuh. So the reason why they called him Nuh, because he was kathirul baka. He used to always cry. Always crying. Why? Because of his people. In Safat al-Tafseer, Alama Sabuni, he mentions one qissa, one story of Nuh alayhi salam, not a story but a riwayat, a hadith, or what has been related from the people of the past, that Nuh alayhi salam's people was so much enmity against Nuh alayhi salam that he lived 950 years. So this was not the age of all of his people. People were passing away and he was still living. This Allah Ta'ala had given him a long life. So it's mentioned that Nuh alayhi salam would live through generations and see them die as disbelievers. And what would happen was, when the people would have a child, so in the child's young age, they would hold the hand of the child and bring him to Nuh alayhi salam's house. When Nuh would open up the door, then the child would be told by the father that this is Nuh alayhi salam. He will tell you that there's only one Allah and believe in Tawheed, reject him. And when your child becomes this age, make sure to tell him to reject him as well. Disbelieve in him. These were the type of difficulties that Nuh alayhi salam was going through, and the type of inad and hatred that the people had for Nuh alayhi salam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made this, announcement that nobody will believe except for those people who have believed already. So therefore, do not become sad, Nuh alayhi salam. As you've been becoming sad for the last 950 years, do not become sad anymore on what they are doing. Because these people are doing it, in disbelief, and there's no need for you to become sad about what they're doing. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now gets Nuh alayhi salam prepared for the tufan, prepared for the big, the storm. Or what do you call it? The flood. Yes, the flood. What will come in my head? The flood. The flood that was going to come on Nuh alayhi salam's people. Allah ta'ala now started preparing Nuh alayhi salam. Allah ta'ala mentions, وَاصْنَعِ الْفُلْكَ بِأَعْيُنِنَا وَوَحْيِنَا وَلَا تُخَاطِبْنِي فِي الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا إِنَّهُمْ مُغْرَقُونَ. Allah Ta'ala says, make the ship, وَاصْنَعِ الْفُلْكَ, make the ship, بِأَعْيُنِنَا, with our protection. A'yun is the plural word for ayn, which means eyes. Eyes. In Arabic, we call this majazi mursal, meaning by saying eyes, because eyes is the reason why a person's able to protect someone else. Right? Hifazat. When you want to protect something, so you're protected by looking at it through a camera. But anyway it is, security guard. But the purpose is what? The eyes. The security guard can be muscle bound. If he doesn't see the person stealing, he can't catch him. He's got to see it. So that's why Allah Ta'ala says, بِأَعْيُنِنَا, يعني بِحِفْظِنَا. This is called, I don't want to get too high, this is eloquence in Arabic. Maybe some of the sheikhs who speak Arabic, they understand. This is called تعلق إطلاق السبب ويراد المسبب. It's kind of like if I mention the cloud, but I mean the rain. Right? I mentioned the cloud, the sabab. The reason for rain is what? The cloud. The reason for the rain is cloud. So I mention the cloud, but I mean rain. In Arabic, they do this all over the place. They do it everywhere. Mention the cloud, but you mean the... For example, if I say, No, forget it. I don't want to get too deep into it. But anyway, the cloud and the rain, because now I'm going into different masail. And this is balagha. This is balagha eloquence. We learned this in 4th, 5th year now, and I teach it in the Darul Uloom in 3rd, 4th year. It's the Arabic language. It's a beautiful language. So anyway, bi'ayunina means in protection, because a person protects through his eyes. So Allah Ta'ala mentioned this like this. So build the ship bi'ayunina, in our protection. We will protect you. They will not be able to do anything to you. Because obviously the kuffar, the mushrikeen, the people at Nuh alayhi salam's time, when they see him building something, they can kill him while he's doing it. They can break that at night. They can destroy it. No, but Allah Ta'ala's hifazat and His protection was there. وَوَحْيِنَا, and how Nuh alayhi salam's going to build a ship. There probably wasn't many examples of a ship anyway. He's only one person. There was no water where Mesopotamia, where they were. There was not much water there. So, and he started building it on dry land as well. That's why it's coming up. They started making fun of him. You're building a ship on dry land? What are you, crazy? There's no water around here also? What are you building a ship for? They started making fun of him, saying, he's building a house and he's going to float in the water with the house. They started making fun of him. So, وَوَحْيِنَا, with our wahi also, we will tell you how to construct this ship. With the wahi, and the angels will come and they would assist Nuh alayhi salam and tell him how to do it. In other ayats is mentioned, بِأَلْوَاحٍ وَدُسُرٍ. Right? That we put Nuh alayhi salam on a ship which was planks of wood and nails. Simple wood and nails it was made by. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through His wahi, He guided Nuh alayhi salam on how to construct the ship. وَلَا تُخَاطِبْنِي فِي الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا. And Nuh alayhi salam, we know about your crying. We've been seeing it for 950 years. We know how your heart hurts and how you've given your heart to these people. But وَلَا تُخَاطِبْنِي, do not speak to me about those people who've oppressed. I've had enough already, Allah Ta'ala saying. I've had enough. They're going to be destroyed. They asked for punishment. I'm going to give it to them now. Don't start asking me, O Nuh, that, give these people another chance. Don't speak. إِنَّهُمْ مُغْرَقُونَ, verily they will be drowned. They're going to be drowned. After this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, as I said, as Nuh alayhi salam was making the ship, his people started making fun of him. وَيَصْنَعُ الْفُلْكَ وَكُلَّمَا مَرَّ عَلَيْهِ مَلَأٌ مِّن قَوْمِهِ سَخِرُوا مِنْهُ قال إن تسخروا منا فإنا نسخر منكم كما تسخرون. Allah Ta'ala mentions وَيَصْنَعُ الْفُلْكَ. So he was building the ship. وَكُلَّمَا مَرَّ عَلَيْهِ مَلَأٌ. Every time a group from amongst his people would pass by, سَخِرُوا مِنْ, they would make fun of him. Look at Nuh, what an idiot. He's now on the dry land, he's building a ship, and the Mufassirin have said one of the jokes they were saying is that he's building a house, and then that house is going to float in the water. They're making fun of it. Even now, as people do deen and people don't understand, so they make fun of it. Look at you. Ajib, what are you? This is the old days? What are you doing? Look at you, look at your clothes you're wearing. Ajib, look at you. So this is what they do. They make fun. قَالَ إِن تَسْخَرُوا مِنَّا. If you make fun of us, Nuh alayhi salam replied, if you make fun of us, فَإِنَّا نَسْخَرُ مِنْكُمْ كَمَا تَسْخَرُونَ. So verily there will be a day when we will make fun of you the way you made fun of us. Meaning on a day of Qiyamah. فَالْيَوْمَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنَ الْكُفَّارِ يَضْحَكُونَ. Allah Ta'ala says that there will be a day that the Muslims they used to be and the people who believed used to be laughed at. But there will be a day where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it such that those who believed and were madloom and oppressed, they will laugh at those who used to laugh at them. عَلَى الْأَرَائِكِ مُتَّكِئُونَ. And they will laugh on couches, leaning back, relaxing. And they will laugh at them. You made fun of us, now we make fun of you. And that making fun will be eternal. So that's what Nuh alayhi salam saying. In taskharu minna, if you're making fun of us now, فَإِنَّا نَسْخَرُ مِنْكُمْ, we'll make fun of you, كَمَا تَسْخَرُونَ, like you made fun of us as well. Then he warns them, فَسَوْفَ تَعْلَمُونَ مَنْ يَأْتِيهِ عَذَابٌ يُخْزِيهِ وَيَحِلُّ عَلَيْهِ عَذَابٌ مُقِيمٌ. فَسَوْفَ تَعْلَمُونَ, you will soon know, مَنْ يَأْتِيهِ عَذَابٌ, who the punishment will come upon, يُخْزِيهِ, and it will disgrace him. The ulama of Tafseer say, يُخْزِيهِ فِي هَذِهِ الدُّنْيَا, it will disgrace him in this world. And not only in this world, in the hereafter, وَيَحِلُّ عَلَيْهِ عَذَابٌ مُقِيمٌ, and a constant punishment will be opened up upon them, and that is on the hereafter. Could be in the qabr or in the day of Qiyamah. In both of those places, عَذَابٌ مُقِيمٌ, a constant punishment will be opened upon them. So here the indication is towards two punishments. One is the punishment of this world, which disgraced them when they were drowned. And then after that, it wasn't finished. The worst one is the punishment in the hereafter, which is adhabun muqim, a constant punishment. After this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the beginning of the punishment. حتى إذا جاء أمرنا وفارت النور قل نحمل فيها من كل زوجين اثنين وأهلك إلا من سبق عليه القول وما آمن معه إلا قليل. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions حتى إذا جاء أمرنا, until our order comes, meaning the order of punishment. The order of punishment comes. وَفَارَتْ النُّورِ, and the water on the stove starts to boil. Now, what does this mean? The water on the stove starts to boil. There's a few meanings to this. The first meaning, most of the ulama mention this, is Allah Ta'ala وَفَارَتْ النُّورِ. The nur actually means the zameen, the land. And the reason why Allah Ta'ala is saying Farat Tanur, He's saying the land is like a stove, because when the punishment of Allah Ta'ala started in this flood, one was the rain coming down, which is normal, but the rain came down in buckets on that day. So it wasn't a normal rain, but rain coming from the sky, and even coming torrential rains, it's not far-fetched. But the sign of the punishment starting was the water coming from the ground, because the water came from top and bottom in the flood of Nuh alayhi salam. So Farat al-Nur means that, oh Nuh alayhi salam, once you look at the ground and you see, blub, 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 the bubbles start coming, water starts coming from the ground, blub, 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 blub. Then make sure now you run to your boat, get two kind of each animal. And this of course was a mu'jiza, a miracle. Obviously Nuh alayhi salam, where would he have time to go to the jungle and start getting two animals, catching them? Allah Ta'ala gathered them, and they just came on the boat. So the ulama of Tafseer mentioned this was a mu'jiza, a miracle of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that two of them, so that the progeny of the animals can be saved, they came on the boat, and then when that Farat al-Nur, when that bubble started, so then this was a sign of punishment, bubble, 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 then the rain started coming, and then the water came from both directions, and the flood started. Some ulama say Farat al-Nur was a oven that was in the house of Nuh alayhi salam, which was not working, but it was an oven that belonged to Hawa, the wife of Adam alayhi salam. It was brung down and passed upon, and now it came Nuh alayhi salam's presence. He owned it, and Allah Ta'ala mentioned that when the water starts boiling in this, from this oven, so then therefore make sure you know that the adhab punishment is coming. Some ulama say no, it's just mutlaq, it's just a regular general brick oven. That the fire will come so much that the brick ovens, the ovens that now cook the roti, because the nur is usually the one, in Urdu also they call it, the one that the roti is, and it's usually underground. So when that fills up with water, when you look underground and see that stove now got water in it, so now you know the water's coming. So make sure you start gathering everyone, and get on the boat. And some ulama, the last thing they say, Farat al-Nur means it's giving indication towards any shiddatul hawl, meaning a terrifying event. Like the same way when water starts boiling, or something starts boiling on a stove and it becomes violent and the pot starts shaking and the water starts moving. In the same way, the earth will be doing this like this as well. So this is now, Farat al-Nur means when something terrifying happens. Wallahu alam, Allah Ta'ala knows best. But all of them indicate towards the beginning, a sign of the beginning of the punishment, the beginning of the flood. قُلْ نَحْمِلْ فِيهَا مِنْ كُلِّ زَوْجَيْنِ اثْنَيْنِ, and take upon that ship, bring upon that ship, مِنْ كُلِّ زَوْجَيْنِ اثْنَيْنِ, two from every type of animal. female and male, so that later on they will be able to mate and the progeny of that animal will be able to carry on. وَأَهْلَكَ, and your family as well. إِلَّا مَنْ قَدَ سَبَقَ عَلَيْهِ الْقَوْلِ, except for those people that the order of kufr and disbelief has already come upon them. Meaning, Nuh alayhi salam, those people from your family who have disbelieved, they still disbelieve, and that was two of them. One was Wa'ila, the wife of Nuh alayhi salam, and the other one was Sam, who his nickname was Kin'an. Kin'an, he was known as Kin'an, the son of Nuh alayhi salam. These two were disbelievers. Sabaka alayhi al-qawl, meaning the kufr and the disbelief already has been upon them. I've told you, Nuh alayhi salam, that no one will believe. So bring your whole family, but your wife and your son, this son, do not bring them. Nuh alayhi salam had other wife and other sons, but these two cannot come on the boat with you. They will remain with those people who are drowning. وَمَنْ آمَنَ, and those people, of course, who are believers, put them on the boat with you as well. وَمَا آمَنَ مَعَهُ إِلَّا قَلِيلٌ, and there was only nobody believed in Nuh alayhi salam except a very few. Only a few people believed in Nuh alayhi salam. It was only about 80 people who had come on that boat and they believed in Nuh alayhi salam, 80 out of thousands. After this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, قَالَ ارْكَبُوا فِيهَا بِسْمِ اللَّهِ مَجْرَيْهَا وَمُرْسَاهَا إِنَّ رَبِّي لَغَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. Allah ta'ala mentions that Allah ta'ala said, irkabu fiha, mount and ride on the ship, Nuh alayhi salam, ride on the ship, come on the ship. Bismillah, and say Bismillah. As we say Bismillah when we go in our cars, by the name of Allah ta'ala. So Allah ta'ala also told Nuh alayhi salam that come upon the ship, mount on the ship, ride on the ship, and start with Bismillah, the name of Allah ta'ala. Bismillah, in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, majreha, it will flow, wa mursaha, and it will stop. Allah ta'ala will control the ship. Because the flood was such, like we're going to do later on, that the waves were the size of mountains. So obviously how could Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how could it be such that this ship would be able to flow in this flood? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions here and tells us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by the name of Allah ta'ala, meaning the protection of Allah ta'ala, this ship will flow, and when Allah ta'ala wants it to stop, mursaha, it will stop also. And here we read majreha. This is the only place, according to Imam Hafs, the way we read Quran, this is the only place in the whole Quran where we read ra as re. Ra as re. Bismillahi majreha. We know everywhere we read ri. It should be actually Bismillahi majriha, majriha. But we say majreha. This is called imala, imala, to read with an empty mouth. So in Hafs, the usual qiraat that we have, the Aim of Haramain also, they read according to Hafs. There are other riwayat, Warsh, where you get وَالضُّحَيْ وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَيْ. These type of things, imala is done in other places. But here, according to the way we read Quran, this is the only place we do imala. We read a word majhul, we read it empty mouth. Actually the ra is like the Urdu, re. Here, majreha. So those who speak Urdu get very happy with this word, majreha. Finally, we don't have to say the ra in Arabic. We can say re. Re is nice, majreha. Wa mursaha, and also it will stop, according to the name of Allah Ta'ala. Inna Rabbi la ghafurur rahim. Verily my Lord, He is Ghafurur Rahim, He is the merciful, and He is the one who's forgiving. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, can we carry on or should we stop here? I think we'll stop here. Because the qissa is long about Nuh alayhi salam's son. So I think we'll stop here inshallah. Because there's quite a few things to explain about Nuh alayhi salam's son. Should we go on or stop? It's okay. Take it inshallah. So next week inshallah, we will, وَهِيَ تَجْرُ بِهِمْ فِي مَوْجٍ كَالْجِبَالِ. Allah subhanahu, we will talk about the qissa, a part of this qissa and story, about Nuh alayhi salam and his son. And his son's unfortunate death, that he died in disbelief. And Nuh alayhi salam's request from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on why this happened, and Allah ta'ala's reply, and why Nuh alayhi salam said this, and why he asked Allah ta'ala about this. Inshallah, we'll discuss all of that next week, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah. Sheikh, why